Well, you're supposed to do something.
Yep, I think we're off. Hello
Oh,
and welcome to Malika's Poetry Kitchen at the Stay at Home Literary Festival. So, some of you may be wondering, what is Malika's Poetry Kitchen? I hope some of you know. So, cast your mind back 20 years and imagine what the poetry scene was like, the poetry establishment in particular. And one of the things that you will notice about it is that it's very white. The establishment is white. The gatekeepers, editors, producers, promoters are all white. And so imagine that you are a young Black poet coming up in that scene, and you're being overlooked, you're being ignored, you're being thought of as a rapper or a performance poet, and that's being used as a derogatory term. But you know that you're a talented poet. You know that you're dedicated to the craft of poetry. So what do? Well, if you're Malaika Booker and Roger Robinson, you get together and you create a community in which you can nurture each other's talents, writing, craft, performances, and so on and so forth. You open up your home, you invite other poets there, and informally at first, and then later, with a name and increasing membership and reputation, Malaika's Poetry Kitchen was formed. Now, I'll tell you a secret. They actually started in Malaika's bedroom because the kitchen was too cold. If you call the group Malaika's bedroom, it's going to have other connotations. So Malaika's kitchen is it. 20 years on, and what has happened? Well, Malaika and Roger have become the establishment. They have won and judged some of the biggest and most establishment poetry competitions in the country, the T.S. Eliot Prize, the Forward Prize, amongst others. And the influence of Malaika's Kitchen has spread worldwide. The poets who were nurtured have gone on not only to their own success, but to spread their words and their talents to other poets, to mentor them, to teach them, to build communities with them. And in the last couple of years, we've got in touch with as many of those Malaika's Kitchen family members as we could find and invite them to submit a poem to this beautiful thing. Too young, too loud, too different, because that's how these Malaika's Kitchen poets were viewed 20 years ago. So this beautiful book, I have to say, this isn't the final version. It's not available yet, but it is available to pre-order on the Stay at Home Festival's booksellers website. So we're very excited. This has more than 60 new poems from members of Malaika's Kitchen from the last 20 years. It also has a history, previously undocumented history of the collective. Malaika has written how to set up your own poetry collective, so you can do it yourself wherever you are. And there's a foreword by Malaika as well. So this actually gets published on the 5th of August. And very excited we are too. And we're hoping to do lots of events around the book. So if you want to know more, the link for our website is in the chat. And on there, you can also sign up for our newsletter. I'll put the link just if you want to sign directly for the newsletter. And we'll send you an email about once a month telling you the events that Malaika's Kitchen are doing. Around the country and online, so you don't necessarily have to be near us to come along like today. Thanks to the Stay at Home Literary Festival for inviting us along. And so what we have tonight, is tonight, still light, but it's an evening, are 4 fabulous poets from Malaika's Poetry Kitchen. We have one of the original members, Janet Plummer, as well as Katie Griffiths, R.G. Manuel Pillay, and first of all, I'm going to introduce our newest member, Courtney Conrad. Now, Courtney came across Malaika during the Obsidian Foundation. The Obsidian Foundation was created by another kitchen member, Nick Makoha, and it's a retreat for Black poets, and it is based on the American Cave Canem, where the poets go and have a really intensive time. They have to submit poets every morning. I don't think anybody sleeps all night. And there have only been 3 British fellows of Carne Carnum, and 2 of them are kitchen members, our founder, Malaika Booker, co-founder, and Nick Makoha. And so Nick set up this retreat, which of course had to be online because of current circumstances, and Malaika taught one of the sessions. And we weren't really recruiting new members for Kitchen because it's a difficult time with the pandemic, and we don't have a formal recruitment process, but Courtney sent an email to Malaika which was like a formal application, and we just couldn't resist inviting her to join. And in fact, if I have to do an application for anything, I'm going to send it to her to vamp up for me. You might have seen her, she had one of the coveted lunchtime slots at Stanza earlier this year, but now here in your own living room or wherever you're sitting, please welcome Courtney Conrad.
Thank you, Jill. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. The first poem is called What Up Your Mama for Everybody. Tourism brochures put a muzzle on my island suffering. Those scenic landscapes and rich culture are not a figment of one's imagination. Corruption stifles public welfare. Struggle has been ingrained in our black, gold, and green. Passports obstruct opportunities to cross holy waters that would heal. So when Mama said she was moving to England, it sounded as though she had won the lottery. I've never seen a going away party organized so quickly to celebrate Mama becoming a personal ATM overnight. It wasn't even 24 hours since Mama's feet touched new soil. Everyone began tugging to give her an earful. Opening remarks always began with, boy, things are done here, beg you a little money, no? She tells them life over here is no praise dance, but they kiss their teeth. The frustration clings to her hair. She swallows her pride, wires the money with traces of her sweat, and picks up an extra shift. I can see everyone's wish list held beneath her eyes. She no longer posts on Facebook where everyone documents her prosperities, far too tired of blows rippling across the waters, catching the corners of her mouth each time she tries to justify herself. Mama receives no commissions for her services. Not once has pen touched paper to express gratitude. I am tired of Mama putting relatives on pedestals and diluting her needs with each transaction. But blood ties. Mama says, if me eat, everybody have to eat. To be family is to stretch hands over oceans, to share blessings. It is to unfold tongue and say, I will love you through hardship, but sometimes I worry. You see, I look at Mama's palms and I see the scars go unhealed as everyone continues to dig. I see the fear tucked in between her frown lines, uncertain of what withholding might mean. You see, where we are from, envy is the mother of murder that hounds migrants. Money turns blood sour. So to the migrants who still send remittances home, you are the true national heroes. Thank you. That's the first piece. The second piece is called Hope Road, and it's forthcoming in Birmingham's Literary Journal. During this lockdown, I found myself writing a lot about Jamaica, and I find that after like moving over here, I didn't take much time to like reflect on my experiences whilst living there. It was very much of like, okay, I'm in a new country, I need to make the most of the opportunities that are given. So I haven't really had much of time to like reflect on all that, whether big or small, the little things, what I miss about home, and little things that I missed because I was obviously on the go during my normal day-to-day. So yeah, these next couple of poems are just things I've probably overlooked or things I miss about Jamaica. Hope Road. When I arrive late to water polo training, coach commands me to beat a kick with a metal chair hovering over my head. I scowl at my classmates piling into taxis. Conductors bawling out, one more, one more. Underneath the banyan tree, I doodle on the school gate with my half-shaped pencil till mommy cruises through with a smoldering patty on the front seat. I fling myself in the car with my white uniform soiled from playground shenanigans. Beef pouring over the paper bag. My tongue rests on my finger like a cool pack. Mommy and I wait for tires to roll half an inch. Shirtless cocoa-head youths with tarmac soles pop lock on the traffic lights. In their hands, a bottle of soap water and a windscreen squidgy. Their mothers fan themselves with a bucket lid while breastfeeding on the sidewalk. Their father pushes a coconut handcart along the white line, wielding his cutlass and sugar bag. Their daughter trails behind with peppered shrimp dangling from a wire hanger, with a bottle dressing of pimento, onions, and white vinegar. I shake mommy's handbag, listening for jingles, my cupped hands catching coppers and silvers. I lean over mommy, two shallow beeps summoning the bag juice, peanut, and gleaner man. The winner sticking his head through my window. He unhardens in front of the AC, his eyes closed, patting down his face and the nape of his neck with a handkerchief. After funneling the peanuts down my throat, I hurtle over to the back seat, my towel a fitting room curtain. I dive into my swimsuit, surf shorts, and t-shirt, my cap and goggles tucked underneath my straps. Mommy, me I go jump out yaso and run the rest of the way later. The next poem is titled James Bond Beach in the Wee Hours. This poem is forthcoming with Anthropocene Poetry Journal. Wetsuit grips me before roosters stroll across courtyard. Minibus transporting rolling eyes, yawns, and snores. Fishermen welcoming me, scaling snapper and parrotfish. Wet-nosed mongrels sniffing around my ankles. Morning breeze and icy water burning nipples and toes. In the boat, feet slip into fins. Snorkels and goggles snuggling forehead before diving in. Waves covering me like duvets. No black lines, walls nor lanes for guidance. Blindly feeling for my teammates' feet ahead. Choppy water scattering slow pokes from the pack. Every freestyle stroke hauling the sun. Thank you. And this is my last piece, Losing Her Beauty, which is also forthcoming in Anthropocene Poetry Journal. The sun pinches our skin, forcing us to Hellshire Beach. While dodging potholes, heads hang from windows watching receipts sweeping the streets like leaves. Balloons swaying like cherry blossoms. Tires kicking bottles to each other, plastic bags flapping their wings towards the coast. Backflipping boys congest the shorelines. Parrotfish sand machines chow the algae from coral reefs before netting, only to be fried, steamed, and plated. Before dusk, we pile into our cars. The rain pours on rooftops like pelting rice grains in saucepans, gullies gushing and rubbish stretching. Lord God, we island no good again. Thank you very much for having me. I'd like to introduce the next poet, Janet, who, as Jill mentioned before, is one of the OGs of MPK, being there for 9 years. She has won a Literature Matters Award from the Royal Literature Society and has also curated and edited an anthology about adoption called Chosen, which has been published by Aspire Creativity Press.
Hello and welcome. Sorry, this is post-birthday and these balloons have been up for a whole month, but they make me happy every time I come into my living room. And I'm really, really happy and proud to be part of Malaika's kitchen. And I thought I would do a little going backwards thing of some recent poems from Chosen that Courtney had mentioned, and also maybe some really quite old poems that actually nobody has heard because they were created as part of an Arvon that we did from Malaika's Kitchen that we hope to repeat in the future. So the first one is called Corridor to Adoption. A guttural sound that zapped high off walls, rebounded much. Occasionally plump cushions, vacuum, and shut the door. Sometimes at night, a low sound can be heard, a moan, something amiss. We do not go into that room where two babies were handed to a worker who had no kind words to offer to a mother with milk engorged breasts, confusion in her head, and a howl in her guts. We shut the door, try not to remember. I think this journey I've been through as a foster carer and then seeing some children to adoption has been, quite a hard journey for lots of people, and I'm seeing things from everybody's perspective, the child, the adopters, the birth family. But lately I've been thinking a lot more about the birth families and what it means, particularly in the process of doing Chosen anthology, because a lot of the adult adoptees felt very different to the babies and young children that were adopted. They will always have two families in their lives, however life turns out. This one is called Chosen. I have loved these new babies, wiped gunk off skin, watched navels crust and fall, heard their first breaths, sat up all night worrying, effaced sick from my hair, laid them on my chest, bonded, counted milestones, months, minutes. Have felt this ache when you left and pined for you. Have been chided for loving you too deep when I have loved you only as much as you deserve to be loved. Part 2. Sometimes your mother is by your side in our houses, giving aggro, sometimes not. Mothers who fed you too much or too little, went out when they should be in, had every element of their lives documented. A team of watchers, seers, sayers. Their word is final. After the fourth mother leaves, the epiphany strikes. These babies do not go home. I do not know how much longer I can do this. It takes something away from me each time. Part 3. Each year, in a small street in Castelbellate, I shop. I buy a wooden name train for each of you. I have given only the first beloved child their train, handed their precious letter carriages to his adopter. I line the rest up at Christmas. Where are you all now? I tick 2 adoptions off. 2 went home and ponder on the rest. Part 4. Mother number 6 squeals with delight at freedom. then asks if she can stay a little longer with me. I feel like home. Mother number 7, who unintentionally stumbled into this care Wookie hole, a scared scrap of a child who then went on to ace parenting. Part 5. I have waited 8 years for one to go home, and then, like buses, 2 come along. Thank you. So I just wanted to go back a little bit retro, and sometimes we read or see our old work and we think, oh my goodness, did I write that? Or it's very different. But I chose this because it's one of the first poems that I did that was edited in Kitchen. It's called Life Marks. And then, as if by magic, a year after you came, the life marks appeared. 2-inch long silver brown lines that scored my flesh. Mother Nature has a way of inflicting her sense of humour, like giving post-birth presents of a flatter stomach and smaller, reshaped breasts than I could ever have wished for. Long baths revealed 3 tiny silver lines in a row, the smallest barely visible to the eye. So if a lover were to trace his hand over my stomach, past the glint and glare of gold diamond ring, he would feel the raised contours, the dip and fold of them, the smooth yet rippled texture. These marks are a sign that you are here, etched deep, engraved in my flesh, a memento of your life marking mine. And I really loved hearing Courtney's poems, because not all poets, you know, whether we're from Jamaica or Poland or Scotland or wherever we are, not every poet manages to bring a part of them and their culture into their poetry. So just love that. Love you up, Courtney. And welcome to the Kitchen family. Thank you. And this is called Red String. She's celebrating Jesus in a G-string. Hollers, hoops and hallelujahs as dance hall makes way for divinity. They're singing real loud like a favoured Mary J tune, praying for sins they've yet to commit. They're bringing all they've got, arms flailing as they sway in time. Sister Joyce spots a too high heel. A skin design peeps from a chest where they've tattooed his word on their hearts. Her eyes shut, fingers crossed, legs closed, oblivious to the ladder in her own fishnets. She fingers the red string of her Bible, marks a psalm before snapping it shut. Then she's singing again, singing real loud, and he's smiling, saying, "Come, come as you are, to the fisher of men who makes fish clean." I really like that poem. It's been a long, long time. It's very old. And these are some very short poems. It's at the back of Life Marks, a poetry pamphlet that was printed by Magmark Press many moons ago. But the 3 parts of this were the ones that were created during Kwame Dawes' Arvon with us, which was just amazing. And we would love to have you back, Kwame. So come and teach us. Come back. So the first part is a good. Tenor morning. Yes, it was me who did spit in your cornflakes, swirl it around in the milk. You felt a chill run through you at 10:15. You choke on your cornflakes at 10:25. A good 11:30. Pavement trip you up, no sir? 1:45. Coffee spill, cup drop and broke. A good 3:15. Door slam, window shut, not a breeze. A good. And me did sour the milk, choke you, trip you, make you cool, make you jump. And a duppy, and a jumbie, and me, and a good. And then part 1 of Unpicked is called Salt. Salt, part 1. Big man sweats, sweat dripped, landed on my lips, tasted of salt. Too much salt kills. Kids should eat less salt than adults. Adults shouldn't sweat on kids or have sex with them. Not when they know you or you call them uncle, especially when they aren't really. Uncles shouldn't serve you too much salt. Too much salt dehydrates you. Sometimes it kills you years later. And finally, Cherry. I don't think I've ever performed Cherry. Just sat in a book, which written as a workshop that I never wanted to produce as homework or read out to anybody else at Arvon, never mind in public. Cherry, part 2 of Unpicked. Cherry red hymen torn out of you. You wish it was still there so you could give it away to a boy instead of a man. Wish you were whole instead of broken, complete instead of damaged. Good God, because then you might be able to fix yourself when the cracks start. But they don't make people glue. Surgeons can repair hymens now, but haven't figured out how to make you happy or pretend you were never broken. Thanks. Oh, so my mellow tone's changed, but I just want to introduce you to the next writer, who is Katie, isn't it? Yes? Katie Griffiths is an amazing writer. She's been a stalwart of Malaika's Poetry Kitchen for quite a number of years now, and look her up, Google her, find out who she is, what she's about. I love your poetry. It's so evocative, it's delicate, it's beautiful. It's like a little peony flower that's beautiful and sensitive and fragrant. Read her collection, find out more about the amazing Katie Griffiths. Handing you over to her.
Thank you so much, Janet, for that lovely introduction, and also for your wonderful poems. So touched by them, and so beautifully read under that balloon art. Just wonderful. Recently, in amongst everything that's been in the news, a TV star from Big Brother called Nikki Graham, she recently died after suffering a battle with anorexia for some time. This is a disease, if you like, that afflicts many people, many women. Originally, we thought of it as a women's disease, but of course, men have it as well. So it affects many people. And quite a number of the poems that are in my collection, the attitudes, deal with an uncomfortable relationship with food. So in honor of this young person who's died and anyone who is going through these sorts of problems at the moment, I would like to read my next poems. Dough must not enter the body. Number 1. One summer she learned how to eat, not to swallow, just spit, crouch with jam pastries and a paper bag. She ate herself down to the cellar, each night painted a portrait of a harlot with lopsided hat that grew with each mistake. One botched eye had to go, hidden by an extended brim. Daytimes, balled against ribs of a wooden rowboat, she'd drift with the current, invisible to shore, trying to occupy less space, but disturb it more. For wasn't that the communion wafer's trick on the tongues of the pious? To dissolve, disappear, do the holy work. Dough must not enter the body. Number 2. She bends her head over the toilet bowl, her white confessor. Here she finds eloquence and a receptive ear. Dough must not enter the body. Number 3. She holds her body to ransom. Surely the negotiators will come. It's in the balance. Food is life. Food is death. Dough must not enter the body. Number 4. Her belly is the barometer she touches each day. It can be emptied as a plundered well, a ransacked house of bickering selves, or full as a basket of laundry, a grain store for the unknown road, tight armor to fend off all blows. Mostly, her belly is a castle keep, her face at the window, disheveled. So of course it's not just self-starvation, but at the other end of eating disorders is compulsive overeating. There's a show on television, I don't know if any of you have seen it, called My 600-Pound Life, which I suppose for many viewers, it must leave them feeling incredulity. But for people who have some understanding of compulsion or addiction, it does make very sobering viewing indeed. And of course, there are success stories. Many of these people do shed lots of weight and get better. But what's interesting is sometimes behind the scenes, there's a person who's complicit in keeping the person in question unhealthy. A spouse, a partner, who is sneaking in the extra pizzas or the extra bits of food, which are actually undermining any chance of real recovery. And this kind of person is actually called a feeder. God is my feeder, my bearer of trays. His ease of movement among canned goods, not just canned goods, but chocolate cake, not just cake, but loaves and fishes and bagels, pretzels, Four Seasons pizza, the way that he and I collude, and not just collude, but ham up our roles, me lauding him while he magnifies me. for God is my feeder, my bearer of trays. And home delivery is all I demand, and doorstep deliverance is all I ask, and not just rescue, but how in the night when I wake up with designs on the moon, hog-wild moon in the craving space, and my craving bursts through its seams. God is my feeder, my bearer of trays. For him, I aim to be fattest of all. For him, I'll be airlifted, then we'll elope. Our future transcendent, our story immense. He took this girl, this malformed apple, the malformed apple expelled from the tree scribbled with rough cast prayers, the rough cast prayers perturbed by daylight, the daylight austere as a cedar plank, the cedar plank reformed as a chair intent on holding a shape. But hold a shape she would not do. It can be really hard to reach out to help someone who is self-harming in some kind of way. And especially if we think we know all the answers and that we can fix this person. But very often they might have a very plausible rationale for what they are doing. Scar gazer. I keep saying she must tell a different story. Once upon a time, she says, scar was a slow transfixing. Scar, scattered trails, openings, scanty scar, skillful scar, scary scar. Scar stood out from bootlicking bruise and subordinate scratch who impersonated each other. Scar, her strong arm, her mullion in the window. Scar, she says, was the breakthrough, suave as a flick, clean as a plunge. Come close, she says. See how easily my arms went scar. My back got scar. My legs turned scar. I can't live with or without scar. Each time she tells this story, I keep asking, aren't scars dues paid, each penny a capitulation? No, 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 she says. Can't you see the grace of scar running a crack through the urn that wants your name? So while it may be hard to heal other people, maybe the best option is to try and heal ourselves. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a New Age healer or someone like that. Have you noticed sometimes they give themselves really interesting names like Perceptiva or Wise Plover, which in fact is the name of the healer in my final poem, which is called That Ye May Be Perfect and Entire, Wanting Nothing, which is a quotation from the Bible. That ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. More ways to skin a cat, surely. For example, Wise Plover in her hovel, trafficking angel cards and runes. There's too much trapped anger, she declared behind me, turning her palms over my shoulders and lifting upward as if I were a cantilever collapsed on my own frame. I straightened a tad. She offered nothing more except a cup of tepid rooibos and the instruction for calmness to think of the sea, which of course I saw everywhere, but abject and scathing, its turmoil so spiked by belligerent breakers that one day I took the train to the coast, resolved to finally settle matters. I asked the sea to admit its failings. It wouldn't leave the stones alone. Thank you. So what can I say about the next poet who's coming up? What a treat you are in for. The wonderful R.G. Manuel play. R.G. burst into kitchen with so much energy and so many wonderful ideas. He's got absolutely lovely manner about him, which I think probably comes from all the community projects and work that he's done. He was, for example, co-founder of the children's theatre company A-Line Art. But not just that, he's a very successful poet. In 2019, he was a Jurwood Arvin nominee. His name has featured in lots of lists and short lists for prizes, and he's been in lots and lots of magazines. Sorry, it was on the floor. I highly recommend RG's book called Mutton Rolls. You've got to get a hold of this from Outspoken Press. Absolutely wonderful. And if you haven't seen it, it's just such a lovely example of RG's way with words, his very fearless treatment of culture, identity, family. It's absolutely wonderful. He's also an absolutely wonderful teacher, brimming with ideas. So if you can ever catch him for a teaching session, make sure you do. And also he's currently running a podcast called RG's Poetry Pickle Jar, where he invites a poet to come along and talk about a favorite poem. He's absolutely wonderful. I love him to bits. I love his work. So I give you RG.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was a great intro. You can just come around with me everywhere I go and introduce me. Real pleasure to be here, everyone. It's summertime. And so I only bring this poem out when it's summer, because when I go to the park, there'll be people scantily dressed, soaking up the rays, as we love to do. And this poem's called White People. Every sort of white people, pink as grapefruit pinking, string clothes, sizzling bacon sausage strips glistening on the grill. White people, dead on their deck chairs, cocktails and nachos, etch-a-sketch tattoos, texting, wish you were here, wonderfully wistful. White people, bee-eyed, pre-tanned, sun cream in their screaming 4-year-old, thumbing a Catherine Cookson classic, t-shirts saying, I went to Tenerife and all I got was white people. Bouncing bulges, kebabi, chip fat frothing from panty lines, twitching buttocks, rabbits with nightmares. Oh, wonderfully white people. Return to work, smiling coyly, flashing your new skin like a fine new coat. Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here and to see all the people in the audience with their comments, and also to see and hear all the other poets here. So it's always a pleasure to perform with or alongside Malaika's Kitchen's members. I'm actually 5 weeks into fatherhood, and god damn, it's hard. It's a lot harder than it says on the tin, in fact. And only when you become a father, which I still struggle to say, you realize how much your parents did, which you just basically never knew about. And they were like saints. So I thought I'd try and find a couple of poems about dads. Some of them are positive, but some of them are mixed. This is called I Love You. When I am seeing her father dying, I am seeing my father dying. Everyone is seeing their fathers dying, fathers lined up in hospital beds, beeping like Asda checkouts, orifices poked, stuffed with pipes, doctors rubbing their stubble, engraving clipboards with reasons why. I just wanted to tell you. Our fathers are coughing up. I phoned to tell you their insides into cardboard tubs of sick and blood and phlegm. And no, he hardly smoked or drank. We reach for rationale as fathers pretend they are strong enough to sneak out and sob in toilet cubicles, flashing their asses all over the ward, soiling sheets rolled on their sides. The ward is full of sons and daughters being strong. Dad, just listen. Begging them to walk, eat better, drink less whiskey. I just wanted to say all of our phones are flashing. Blood draining from our features. Our fathers' features fading. Our fathers, I just wanted to say, are dead. Yeah, I forgot about that poem. I enjoyed reading it there. I wrote a COVID poem because I got a commission to do it, and luckily they cancelled the gig, so I got to keep the money and the poem. And then it won a competition, but they didn't know that. But they might find out now. And it's this poem. It's called Ways of Saying I Love You. My father is a garland untied along the pavement. Each member a flower, shaking as though a bird just landed and flew away. But it isn't a bird. It is my uncle in a hearse. No one saw him, but they say he passed. How do you say I'm sorry without a hand on a shoulder? How does Abbas say I love you without a cross on a forehead? We are items in lost property, mulling in what nows. I want to tell my mum how much I think about her, but talk about my poems and the weather. As we leave, she hands me a bag of Tupperware, warns me to keep it upright, and it sits in the back seat belted up, sobbing curry all over the way home. A scent clings to my suit, like wishing I had said something. My girlfriend asked me why I'm quiet, but I cannot find myself, like I couldn't find the words, so I roll all the windows up and breathe in and let the aroma fill my lungs like the Tupperware fills every tray in my fridge, even after we've eaten most of it. I want to ring my mum to tell her how much I love her, but settle for saying, the mutton rolls were banging, Mum. She tells me to store some in the freezer for another day. They sit there all year. I don't have the courage to eat them. Thanks so much, everybody. I've still got, I think I'm allowed to do the one from the book. So this book is coming out. Jill already promoted it, but I'll just quickly promote it again. Too Young, Too Loud, Too Different. I just checked the title so I wouldn't get it wrong. And you know what? If you don't know that much about poems, there's loads of great poets in there. So it's one of those books where you're bound to like something in it. So I recommend getting it. And I'm going to read Tulips, which is about my partner's father. And it features in that book. Tulips. I can hear her in the kitchen talking on the phone the way a daughter only talks to her father. A voice, soft at the seams, familiar, woven with history like fossils uncovered along the Northumberland coast. They discuss important things like vinyl flooring or shelves or how they'll want to plant tulips this winter, though he knows he'll probably never see them bloom. That night, in bed, she cannot stop crying. In knee pads and old car keys weeks later, soil-soaked hands clamber in bushes, bury green-fingered secrets at the base of a great oak, planting tulips as he teaches, and I catch her behind his watering can for a second, staring as a daughter only stares at her father like he is the sky and she is a boat below it. That night she asked me, who's going to tell me it will be all right? It's Saturday, it's strictly night, and he is stretched out, sipping chocolate mousse, batting tales of Nigeria to his daughter, who reaches for his stories like feathers from a falling bird. He laughs and she wipes mousse from his shirt, exchanging a glance from when she was 9 with a grazed knee, hobbling to a man who could make the ground say it was sorry. I hope so, he says as the credits roll. I would love to see them grow. It's a year since he passed, spring in our tiny flat, and she is consoling our heartbroken neighbor. The neighbor sobs into her shoulder, she listens, her forehead a crinkled crash mat, nodding, speaking with tender voice, as though each word a bird nursed, released from her mouth. The rain outside is falling. Our neighbor shakes his head like I am shaking mine, wondering where her kindness comes from. And there, on the balcony, tulips, tall as I have ever seen. Thank you so much for having me, and it's a real pleasure to perform with all of you. Over to our host with the most, Jill, I believe.
Thanks, Arji. Oh, fantastic, as always.
Oh, you muted, Jill.
Could have sworn I clicked unmute. Thank you, Arji. A fantastic set, as always. And from the rest of the poems, you have heard Courtney Conrad, Janet Plummer, Katie Griffiths, and Arji Manuel Pillay. I've put in the chat again the link for our website and also details for another event that we're doing on Monday as part of the London Library Lit Fest. Some of us are actually going to be in the library. We're going to be in the room together with some of the other poets beaming in remotely from where they are. Thanks once again to all the team at the Stay at Home Literary Festival for having us, and thank you all for listening. Have a good evening, and don't forget to check out all the rest of the festival's wonderful, wonderful events.